From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
Hey guys, here is a picture of me standing at the center of the universe in Tulsa in 2015. Sure enough, there she is. She's standing in the center. It looks like kind of like a brick inlaid sort of like historical marker kind of placard kind of thing that you might see on like a city's like Riverwalk or something like that, in a circle, standing in the middle of it. Snickers goes on. At the time, there was no sign. And again, this is just like sort of an array of bricks. It doesn't really have a placard on it. It just kind of has that look. There was no sign, and if the website I found describing it hadn't told me how to find it, I never would have known I was in the right place. People walked past on their way to and from work. Several looked at us as if they didn't know why anyone would be there. It seemed to be between business districts, parking garage, and large office buildings, but not arranged in any particular way around that spot. You can see that the brick pattern is centered around the spot I was standing. That's what I was describing. So now, to my memory, the auditory effect was really bizarre. It didn't so much amplify or reverberate my own voice, but everything other than that, other than what was coming from the spot in the center, sounded muted. So it's almost like a noise cancellation kind of effect. So the only sounds I could hear standing there were the ones I was making. My traveling companion tried it out too, and despite reports, we didn't notice any distortion of our voices from outside the circle, but they reported a similar effect. We messed around with this for the better part of an hour. I think that's a testament in and of itself that something interesting was going on, including standing as close together as we could and super quietly whispering to each other. We could hear things we were sure we wouldn't have been able to hear in all but the quietest nights. Neat. Again, the people passing by didn't show any sign of understanding what we were doing, which led us to speculate that it may not have been well known among the locals, which also seemed unlikely. And they also go on to say, I found this and other interesting roadside attractions for a cross-country road trip on the Atlas Obscura website. And I think all three of us, four of us, everyone pretty much from the How Stuff Works family, big fans of Atlas Obscura. I can't, I mean, that to me, the closest thing, that it would be almost as if you were sharing a noise cancellation experience with somebody else, which I can't fully understand how scientifically that would be possible, because it's a very personal thing. It's using, these kind of falsely generated subsonic waves to cancel out other subsonic waves that are in the environment. And any acousticians out there might take issue with the way I've described that, but I think I'm doing it relatively decently.
You're nailing it. I also figured out how to build one. There was for a time a children's museum here in Atlanta, Georgia, named SciTrek. Do you guys remember SciTrek?
Yes.
Yeah,
No.
It may have been while you were in Augusta, Noel, but SciTrek for many years was the coolest field trip you could take. and they had something similar, some acoustic trickery, such that one could whisper into a funnel on one side of a very large room.
There you go.
And then hear the whispers at the other funnel on the other side of the room. And I figured out how to build one. I just need a bigger space. So no, Matt, I love this. I love that we are encountering this. We also got a lot of great correspondence about other places called the center of the universe, which caused me to look up the actual scientific, quote unquote, center of the universe. Tried to find the Big Bang. Maybe an episode for another day.
That's exciting.
You can tell us where it is?
Hope you locate it.
Holy cow. On the edge of my seat. And that's not just because I'm sitting uncomfortably. This is, directly a result of your discovery. But I like that you're going to keep us guessing. And I do think that would be a fun episode. It's true, though. Like, the idea of the center of the universe is almost the same as, like, best cup of coffee in New York or something. It's
Sure.
like a thing
Yeah.
you can just say. You don't really have to back it up with paperwork or even geography, really. But this place, whether or not it has anything to do with any kind of cosmological effects due to, geolocation, it is pretty cool. And obviously something's going on. And we talked about it, Matt, in the segment about it having to do with, the reverberation off of these nearby office parks and, parking garages and the like. But I just don't. That doesn't account for what she's talking about here. This is a reverse reverb, essentially. This is like noise canceling.
A reverse verb, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. I know that there's some thought that it is in fact the way in which you can see in the picture that we were sent, the way in which the concrete border is and the fence. There's like a concrete fence as well along the bridge there. Something about the interaction with air and reverberation traveling through those, as well as reverberating off that low concrete fence, or whatever that is, bench, or something that is there in the background. It's like something about that interaction.
Which reminds me of, which also reminds me of standing stones. There is something similar to that because stone does reverberate. I don't know if you guys want me to spoil the current scientific consensus about the center of the universe. Do you want to hear it
That's
now,
what we do here.
or should we hold?
I think we did it in the last episode a little bit, but let's talk about it.
According to the brightest minds humanity has produced up to 2022, there is no actual center for the universe. There is no spoon. Anyway, this is I don't know if we want to.
The actual center of the universe.
Yeah. I tried to find the origin point, and I actually, you guys know I hate phones. I spoke with some folks, and yeah, there's not one.
Well, I mean, let's just devil's advocate here for the sake of argument. Say there were. The chances that it would be on Earth would be pretty unlikely.
No, there's no chance.
Yeah, it's definitely not in Tulsa.
Yeah, I mean, the human.
Just as likely to be there as anywhere, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just not no ding on Tulsa. It's apparently, it's got some really rich, interesting history. If anyone's aware of the Tulsa race riots, I mean, that is something that was buried in American history for the longest time. I didn't really know anything about it until the Watchmen show on HBO made it kind of the central feature of the lore of that show. Really crazy. It was absolutely a massacre of black professionals living in a town that they felt safe in by the Klan, who just came in brazenly with like airplanes, even like literally air raided. It was a war. It was absolutely.
No, I think you may
horrific.
have been. I think you may have been on an adventure when Matt and Codename Doc and I were talking about Tulsa in the larger context of what is called the Red Summer. It's something that I'm really glad you're bringing up because more people need to know the things that are often excised from grade school textbooks. Also, check out our episode. I feel like I'm always plugging our episodes. Check out our episode on the textbook war. It's global, and it is one of the I think one of the early versions of information warfare.
Exactly, and not to get controversial, I just wanted to bring this up briefly because we just did an episode on this idea of critical race theory and how it is inherently, according to some, unpatriotic to teach this history of America as being founded on racism and these horrible acts. But wouldn't you say that excising something like the Tulsa race riots from American history taught in school is an example of something that these folks would say is a positive? Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like it's exactly the kind of thing that we should learn so that we don't make those kinds of mistakes again, which is why, and not to get to soapbox or anything, but we did just recently have a discussion about critical race theory on, I believe, an episode of Listener Mail. It's confusing to me as to why something like this would be excised from history and why the idea of teaching the mistakes that we as a country have made historically is in any way controversial. It just seems like the people that would be making a decision to kind of soften the blow of these types of stories, or literally cut a story like this out of history books, are somewhat complicit in perpetuating that kind of racism, as opposed to teaching things that happened in the past in the hopes that, you know, younger generations could learn from them.
Agreed. And if you again, when you were on Adventure, Matt, Doc, and I talked in depth about just the same thing. So if you feel that you are soapboxing alone, whether you are a conspiracy realist, whether or whether you're on the show with us, no worries. The truth is the truth, and attempts to change it will always eventually fall short of their insidious goals. That's what I would say. I don't think there's anything sanctimonious nor self righteous about being honest about the past. And I agree with you 100%. That empowers us to better face the future, which is going to be crazy, by the way.